All right, everybody, welcome back to the Sarah Centrella Show. And today I'm really excited because whenever somebody that you trust and adore, like my amazing client, Olivia, who does all of my aesthetic stuff, by the way, she's amazing. She has a beauty salon. Anyway, she introduced me to today's guest, and I am really excited to dig into all the things that Jess is going to talk about. Today, Jess is a CMO. She's an online marketing expert guru. But what I love about Jess is she combines kind of the spiritual element with the marketing, which I think is really important. And I think for anyone out there who has an online business that is kind of passion-based or service-based, it's I think there's a little bit of a war that goes on there sometimes. My listeners probably know that because it's something that I personally work on. And that is one of the reasons why I'm really excited to get into the conversation today, because Jess is a Reiki master. So you do Reiki, you do tarot, you do tapping, you do all kinds of other spiritual kind of elements to help the marketing be aligned. And I want everyone to welcome Jess to the show. Welcome, Jess.
Warm welcome. Love the intro. So appreciated. And yeah, it is always fun to get connected by like those right people where Olivia's such a good connector. And I feel like anytime she connects me with someone, I know I'm going to really like them because she understands the vibe.
Totally. It's one of those things, like we all have a few people like that in our life. That's like, you tell me to like meet anyone on the planet, I'm there because I love and trust you. And yeah, so again, we talk about relationships a lot on the show. So everybody who listens, ding, 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 relationships come up on almost every podcast because they're such an important part of everything we do in life. So on the show, kind of before we get into all the good tips and tools and the meat of our conversation today, I love to learn a little bit about your backstory. Like, how did this come about? You're merging two really different passions, I would say, and maybe even 10 years ago, they would have been very opposing passions, probably. Maybe even 5 years ago, they would have been. So take us back. Like, when did all of this start? When did this idea kind of come for you?
Yeah. So I feel like I've always been a little bit psychic.
Mm-hmm.
Even as a kid, I was very convinced I could talk to animals.
I
I very much got picked on for that, but it was true. Now I'm like, oh, okay, that's true for me. That's what I feel. But I think it's a certain age, we do get picked on for our gifts a lot of times, whether that's like, no matter what your gift is. And so you kind of learn to just like blend in with everybody else, right? Which I feel like is also topical for marketing, especially in the coaching industry. But eventually, I went to the #1 advertising university in the world, and graduated, worked at big ad agencies, thought I was going to love it, and had a major identity crisis because I was like, whoa, I hate working for the man. I was a vegan working on Tyson chicken.
Wow. Okay. So like, there's a conflict of interest here.
Yes. So I bounced around some agencies. I worked for big agencies, small agencies, big brands, small brands, and eventually ended up at a women's coaching entrepreneur event. And just sobbed the whole weekend because I was like, oh, I need to be over here. Like, and I am so out of whack. And I didn't know what even alignment meant at the time. But I essentially realized all these amazing women were on stage talking about all the great work they were doing. And I saw how like actually good of people they were. And I would look at their social media and be like, oh, this does not reflect who they really are at all. At the time, most people weren't even using Instagram in this industry. And I was shouting from the rooftops to have people use it way before most people started. I know you were pretty early with it.
Yeah.
But from there, I ended up very quickly starting my company, leaving corporate, scaling it up, and realizing and having a bit of an agency myself,
Mm,
where I was running all of these accounts for big name people, small name people, anybody who was like looking for this. And really, I found myself, I was only 23 at the time. So I was kind of molding myself kind of into whatever this person in front of me would need. And also telling myself the story that I was a special unicorn and
right.
I couldn't hire anybody else to help me.
Ah, yes, yes. And that is a recipe for burnout, right?
I was gonna say, so you can imagine where that led me to. Not a
Yeah.
good place. And also, I didn't want to scale an agency. I do still have some agency offerings or like done with you support, but ultimately, my vision was to empower other people to build this kind of way of doing marketing into their business and bridge the gap from what I was doing in corporate and building real true campaigns and giving that knowledge to coaches, because most of the coaches in the coaching space are just learning from other coaches, which is great and fine, but there's so much more we can bring to it. And then I got to another point where I was like, oh, I really found myself in in my own personal spiritual journey, and was realizing that for me, opening myself up to channel content for myself, opening myself up to work with my unconscious mind and all those blocks that come up, specifically when we're launching anything, right?
Right.
There's different things that come up when we're launching. And I noticed inside of my programs how quickly people come up against their stuff at different points in the launch. And I wanted to be able to support them not only consciously, but unconsciously as well. So that's where I got all the certifications with Reiki, and especially like hypnosis is a big one, tapping, that I use with my clients, and really not only use that to help them in the process with really overcoming all of
Yeah.
this stuff that comes up, but then also unleashing their voice in a new way. Because we all get to the point in our business where we've learned a lot of marketing things, we've done templates. Many people are resorting to AI, which I do use much differently than most people. But they get to this point where they feel like, ugh, I'm not really either converting the way I want, or I don't feel like I'm fully bringing my full self to my marketing. And I just got to the point where I was like, I cannot separate these two anymore. As crazy as that might sound, they have to be together. So I fully took the leap and just was like, this is what we're doing. And if you don't want to do the inner work, then you can find another bro marketer to work with, because
Right.
I'm not working with you.
I love that so much. And I always tell people, like, what of your history, right? All of whatever you've learned in any career that you've had up to this point is all training for something, right? You can tap into it. You've become an expert in, let's say you were a lawyer, or you were a CMO at a company. Like, there's something that you already have kind of expertise in. And I think a lot of people assume that, oh, I have to abandon everything because I didn't like that job, or I hated that career, or I didn't like corporate, or this, that, or the other. And then they're like, I have to do something that's totally passion driven. And a lot of the time I'm like going, wait a second, I bet these two could be married. Like, you could combine
Absolutely.
these two, like, have the thing that you are already known for, like you're an expert in, people trust you. And then how do you incorporate the thing that's calling you, or that passion piece of it? Because in one way or another, that passion piece kind of saved you, like, it's the thing that woke you up. It's the thing that like got you to make some changes. So if it did it for you, it can probably do it for a whole lot of other people who are in a similar position. So I love that you married those two things and said, you know what, I can make up my own thing. Even if no one else out there is doing it, my people will find me. And like, the business can grow in a way that resonates fully with me and isn't just like a carbon copy of the things I didn't like in the first place. So I love that. I'm sure there was some fear associated with that and some blocks too. Talk us a little bit through what it's like to kind of make a big change like that feels pretty scary.
I love that. That's a great question. And I find more and more, I think people have watched my shift, and I find a lot of people coming to me who are in this identity shift of like, I've built this multi-six figure, sometimes 7-figure plus business, and I'm known for this thing, but I have evolved, right, into this new way of being or person, or I want to bring XYZ into my business, or I want to write a book, and whatever it might be. Like, as we as a coach. I think of us as, you know, yes, we're a personal brand. So I don't necessarily think of us as influencers. I used to teach that a lot. And now I've kind of been like, the influencer market is big. It's very distinct. It's different. There are parallels, but ultimately when we are making these transitions with the identity shift, it's important to do. So because if you don't, you're just going to unconsciously repel results because you are not aligned anymore. And what happens is we as a personal brand or a coach, part of why people choose us, yes, is the result that we offer, but ultimately it's who we are as a person. Like they're connected to us. They say, oh, Sarah's awesome. I love her vibe. I think she's going to get me. And that connection piece that you talked about at the beginning too is a huge reason people buy. So for me, when I was in this position of transitioning from like having an agency, I built a bridge, right? So I didn't go from like full on agency to having my program, The Portal, and then just jump from one side to the other and like swim through the deep ocean, although it did feel like that at times. I built a bridge. So I slowly offloaded my agency clients and slowly built up my curriculum and made sure that I could prove it would work, right? Because I think we talk about scaling, and yes, scaling's great, but does your stuff actually work?
Right.
Like, is your thing proven? So I got myself to a place where I energetically could be like, yes, I am in this space. So there was that first bridge I had to cross from like agency to program. Then there was that second bridge, which was program that was mostly strategic and content driven, which it still is, but then crossing over that bridge to incorporate the identity shift of having the more spiritual woo-woo work that is, I think, essential. And that was really scary because I grew up Catholic. Okay.
Right. And that is like almost satanic side, right? They're like, oh my God, you're talking to spirits. I grew up super religious. So any of those things would be in the category of like, oh my God, there's something wrong with you. You know, so I can see
Yeah, you're crazy. It's like, that's what they think. And I had to walk through that. Like the whole idea of expansion, I think in general in our business, whether that's like you're going into a new identity or you want to grow your audience to the next level, whatever it is, our nervous system does not want to do that. It's very much a no, because it feels like we're going to die if we get judged.
Right.
And everyone's afraid of getting canceled today. And so and honestly, it is hard to get hate comments. My first TikTok that went viral, it was wild. The comment section of like the positive and the negative.
Right.
And it's a lot for you to hold. So there's that energetic piece again of like, okay, well, even though this is scary, you need to find someone who's going to be able to, I think in coaching, we have to walk the walk. If you're looking to make a transition like that, I had really good energetic support in my coaches and support system to help me regulate myself and keep going. And then I think leaning on your intuition of, if you know that something was placed in your heart and you cannot stop the nag. I mean, it was like 4 years before I made that transition from the moment I got the nudge to the full transition. And I just kept convincing myself, no one's going to get it. No one's going to get it. You're not skilled enough yet, blah, 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 all these things.
The
nudge doesn't go away.
I think there's so many people out there that can relate to that. I know I can. And I think there's a lot of pressure if you're in one phase of your life, whether you're in corporate or any other job that you don't like, and you want to start a business or you want to turn your side hustle into a business, or you're in a business and you want to pivot, kind of like what you were talking about, where there's this assumption that I have to be all in like immediately, or else, I'm going to fail, or this, that, or the other. And so a lot of people will never do anything because the idea of being all in is, of course, terrifying. Like, I want to get rid of a paycheck so that I can make $0 for God knows how long until I get this next thing in a place where it will, make the money I need to survive. So I think like the fact that you built the bridge is so key. I always tell people, if you have something that you want to do from a side business standpoint, and you want to eventually be able to transition, like, while you are working, that is your time. Like, think of that paycheck as funding the build of your side hustle to the place where it can start to sustain you and start to grow. Like you said, like, I was vetting it. I was making sure that it was tested. I was making sure that it was ready to go, and kind of slowly making that transition over. And I think that's super important to point out. I mean, I literally just had this conversation with multiple clients this week where it's like, you don't have to buy into that all or nothing thing. It's much better to, like, especially if you're service provider. I mean, I coached for free for years as a side hustle, literally years. I was like, I have a full-time job. I'm not there yet. I don't really know what I'm talking about. I don't want to charge. I don't want the responsibility of all that, but yeah, I'll give you my advice and whatever. But all of that, like, built up my skills as a coach and got me to a place where eventually I could kind of make that decision. And I worked my side hustle for 7 years while I had a full-time job and raised 3 kids on my own. So, like, it can be done.
Period.
It can be done. It's not necessarily, it's not easy, but it definitely can be done. So let's talk about some of the spiritual kind of side of it. Before we hit record today, we were talking about, how when your business is reliant on social media, as many businesses are, mine is for one, for clients, it's a lot. It's a lot. I have been on Instagram since 2011. So we're going on 12, 13 years. It is a lot to continue to put out and have that same energy when it feels like there is a lot that is outside of your control, that all the work you're doing is not going to your audience, is not even going to your followers for that matter. Every time there's an update on algorithm stuff. And it gets really disheartening. Like, how does your energy work, or does it speak to that a little bit? Because it's a real thing. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's a real thing.
It is a real thing. And I think the first thing we have to do is validate that and be like, yeah, it is shitty. And is it okay that I swear?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I have, my podcast is explicit and I earn that.
Mine is too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I earn that E.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the first thing we have to do is just let the feelings come up and let ourselves throw an energetic temper tantrum.
Yeah.
Because it is frustrating. Like this, I think we get in these patterns as business owners and we do things for a long time that work for us. And then when things change and doesn't work anymore and we have to shift, it is frustrating. And I think so often we just kind of say, well, I shouldn't be worried about it, whatever. Like we should all over, or shouldn't ourselves around our emotions. And our emotions are a huge thing that are important in our life. Yeah. And so if we let that build up and build up and build up, it's going to snowball energetically onto our social media where we aren't going to get results. I know that sounds crazy, but I've had clients who have
like true. Yeah.
The most perfect freaking chef's kiss content that my agency had ever put out, and it wasn't working. Yeah. And it's because the client hated social media, refused to do it. Like I could tell resented getting on calls with us, Right. And so, and then I had clients who their content wasn't like perfect by any means and was a little scattered, but they loved it and their page just worked. So we're going to go through seasons in our business. I think social media sabbaticals are important. If you're someone who gets burnt out on it, I think it's really important for you to like take a couple weeks off a year and you just let your audience know, hey, I'm taking a couple weeks off. You can either have your team schedule it out in advance if you want, or whatever that looks like. But I think breaks are necessary. And I think releasing the idea of I'm going to lose followers if I take a break because someone said if I don't post every day, I'm going to lose followers. Great. Those followers suck and you don't want them anyway.
Right.
Bye.
It probably never engaged with you ever anyway.
Yeah. So the first step is like validate your opinion, your feelings and your opinions. And I think at different points, and also if you're ever launching a product, you're going to have, the beginning, the middle is the piece that I always throw my energetic temper tantrum of like, no one's listening. It's the middle. It's because it's the
Yeah.
middle,
Yeah.
So we consciously know that, but we have to actually schedule time for ourselves to feel and sit with and validate those feelings, and then release that so we can look at, okay, now from that frustration place, where is it that we are excited about? Like, what
Right.
changes are being made that we feel excited about? And how can we double down on that and kind of release the stuff that feels fully not aligned right now? Or what are some
Yeah.
small tweaks we can make? And I think just reminding ourselves of the affirmation of like, I ascend algorithms, like I
Oh, I
ascend,
like that one. I like
you
that one.
know,
The algorithms really do get to me. Like there's,
and
I'm not
that's
gonna
fair.
lie, like, but I love that as a motto. And thank you for giving permission to take a pause, like truly. Um, I think I took one kind of official break around COVID time or before COVID time where, I was just in a place where like, I cannot do this. I cannot show up all the time, and have no interaction. My love language is affirmations, which to me is just communication. Like I need two-way communication just
Yeah.
for my mental health. I've been working from home for, Jesus Christ, 14 years now, which means that all day long I am alone looking at a screen, for the most part. And from a mental health standpoint, that's a lot over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And then when everything you do is one way, and when it used to be really fun and it used to be energetic and there was conversations and all of that stuff, and then that stops, I'll be honest, I have not figured out how to kind of overcome that, because it has
Yeah.
really changed my experience to the point where it's almost made me resentful. Like you're talking about, it just feels like something that I have to do. And I don't like feeling that, because I love my followers who engage with me. Like it will make my
Of
day to
course.
no end, like to no end, to be like, oh, that's what I needed to hear when thank you. That's amazing. But it's like, there's a lot of the pieces to that puzzle that are outside of your control. And I'm a big believer on I control what I control. Right. And I try to let the rest go. And I think trying to show up every single day and climbing that hill and being faced with all the pieces that you don't control, or working really hard on something you're super excited about. And again, 10,000 people saw it 2 or 3 years ago. 100 people might see it now. It's, how do you
Yeah.
overcome that? I'll be honest about that. Like, how do you overcome that?
Yeah, that's first of all, I see you, I hear you, and I want you to know that's a very fair emotion. And like, I share in that with you because it's true, like engagement has gone down. And it's not something we can like fully control. And I think just that first validation of like, it does suck. It is
Yeah.
hard. I've been running Instagram for businesses since Instagram started.
Yeah.
Like literally the year it launched, I was in a student run agency in college, and we went around to all the local businesses and like started them Facebook and Instagram pages when
Yeah.
they were like, what are you crazy kids doing? And I was like, let me build my portfolio.
Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah.
we'll do it for free.
Right.
And it was a wild, wild west, you know?
Yep.
And so for
It
so
was
long,
fun.
especially,
Yeah.
yeah, it was
It was really
fun. And during COVID, there was like very big surges. So
right.
like obviously there was that duality of like there was things that were really like shitty about COVID, but then there
Yeah.
was also, I think for the online business world,
Oh
there
yeah. If
was
I look at my numbers from during lockdown,
100%.
I want to cry every time. I'm just like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah, and that's valid. And I think we sit with it, we validate it, and I just like my invitation would be to carve out some time to like really grieve what you
Yeah.
don't have now, and then like get to the point energetically where you can be at peace with the fact that it's not going to go back there.
Mm,
And what can we do now moving forward? So what I like
yeah.
to do is if you're someone who quality time is a love language and communication,
Yep.
I'm the same exact way. And I had my son a little over a year ago, and it's been very isolating. I like moved to a new city, got
Yeah.
pregnant, had a baby, and I'm like the socialiest butterfly of all the social butterflies. I'm the extroverted extrovert.
Right.
Like I need people. And
Yeah.
it's been so isolating. And one thing I've just like invited into my social campaign that helps me build connection and community is inviting that part of myself in and sharing like I'm feeling like I hate where I live because
Yeah.
I'm alone, and being vulnerable and honest, and then also like creating conversation around things in maybe new ways that I didn't used to. So like broadcast channel could be a good thing for you
Mhm.
possibly. You're great at like voice noting, I would assume, just based on your have a podcast and what I've
Yeah, and
seen.
I'll be really honest, I have had one for about whenever they came out, like introduced in 6 months, year, or whatever the time frame was. And I've really realized recently that that is not a good outlet for me at all, because it's 100%,
Okay, great.
it's one-way communication, right? It
It
is
is.
only one-way communication. And I was like, why does this feel really, really bad? Like, I don't like
Yeah.
this at all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I've kind of done a couple of different things. Like I
Yeah.
created finally something that I've wanted to do for a very long time. I created an online community that's completely away from social media. I've built an
Great.
app for it. It's just coming out. It's almost ready to come out.
Yay.
And that feels like a safe space a little bit for me, where it's like, if I have at least one safe space where I feel like I can interact with, clients and people who have gone through my community and all of that stuff, but there's two-way interaction with it, I feel like that will maybe kind of help rebuild that piece that was missing for
Yeah.
me a little bit. But I also still do have to and need to and want to show up on, Instagram is my main platform, so I'll say Instagram.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to clear this block, so what
Yeah.
do I do?
And it's not going to happen overnight. Well, we could do some hypnosis, Sarah. I got you.
Let's do it.
We can do some
I
hypnosis. I
definitely
think,
think I need hypnosis at this point.
and also maybe some tapping
Yeah, I need it all. Give it all to me.
would be helpful because yeah, the emotions are strong and they are valid. So I think like the first step is just like getting to that place where you can really sit in that and like either tap on it or do some somatic like inner work on it and find the parts of you that like really are frustrated within you and like sit with them. If you have to cry and grieve and like let them throw their tantrum and be
Yeah,
upset because it's valid, and then eventually letting them know that they could put their sword down,
yeah,
and
take a
that
release. Yeah,
even though yeah, or they could still be here and you'll spend time with them, and you're going to move forward, right? So you're going to
yeah,
find the ways. Broadcast channel didn't work, maybe Instagram stories are awesome for you, like
yeah,
whatever it is that you do like where you are getting communication, you're going to double down there, and you're going to also remind yourself just energetically that because we're back to like more of a normal world, okay,
yeah,
and there's so much going on in the world that's really terrible and exhausting and hard
right.
that people are just not engaging as much. And it doesn't
Yeah,
mean
I think
anything
we're
about
forever
us.
changed in that way. Like, I don't think it will
Yes.
probably, I think you're very right in saying that it's time to grieve what was, because it's not going back to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And find a new normal in where we're at now.
Yeah. And I think allowing yourself to just remind yourself like there are people reading your
Yeah,
stuff, feeling seen, even if they're not letting you know that. I have to remind myself that very often too, and my clients as well. And then when you see someone randomly, you're going to get that like, oh, I loved your post about blah blah blah, and you'll be like,
yeah,
why didn't you comment, you know and it's like those little things, like people
yeah.
are just like reading and scrolling,
I know,
they're
I know.
not necessarily engaging. So
Yeah,
it's just one thing to just reground ourselves back into like people are here, I am alchemizing the algorithm, things are working. And then like whenever you get to a neutral space, I think it's looking at, okay, what new possibilities are there for us, like
yeah,
how can we make this more fun for you again, like what things do you love, like what is actually fun, and bringing that part of your personality in, and like yes, strategy and views and comments, but like how can we have fun with this, like how can we invite in playful energy that's creative and get back to that space, and then that is a more empowered place to create content from and to create marketing plans from,
I love it. Talk about tapping a little bit, because I haven't ever
Yes.
really done it. I've obviously heard about it for years, but and for those of you who are watching on YouTube, go subscribe. Is there anything you can visually like walk us
Yeah,
through right
totally.
now? Is that cool?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So tapping, I always want to honor like the roots of all of these practices because they were created so many years ago and there's roots in all different things. And also we know like because of colonization and stuff, a lot of this stuff has been whitewashed. But from what we know right now, tapping has roots from mostly Asia and then other places around the world too. But just honoring that
Yeah,
anytime
yeah,
I set that sacred space
yeah.
and honor all those that like we know and don't know who created these beautiful things.
Right, yeah.
So the it's based on this like science Chinese medicine science where acupuncture. So
Okay.
the idea that as we have these frustrations and these feelings, it gets stored in our body.
Yeah, you
So
can feel it.
tapping,
Yeah, you can feel the
yes,
tightness in your body. Yeah.
absolutely. And so, and I feel very big. I have very big emotions.
Yeah.
Like I had a temper tantrum this week of energetic about something in my business, and I had to cry
Oh,
and
I had one.
tap.
I had a full breakdown earlier this week. You're
Same.
helping me clear the ending of that process. Definitely been a little bit
Great.
of that.
I'm here for you, Sarah. We got this. So when I'm in those moments of like feeling, tapping is one of my favorite things because it allows me to like be in that emotion, like very strong negative emotion or positive emotion, whatever it is, and program it out or into my system.
Ooh, okay.
So
I love
the
this.
first thing that you're going to do is whenever you're going to tap, I let myself do it. Like what I tell my clients to is like full fucking out. So like if you're in
Perfect.
the temper tantrum, we're in the fucking temper tantrum.
Yeah.
Maybe you have to yell, scream, cry, whatever it is,
Yeah. Because
right?
all that is release, like it's trying to release the
100%.
emotion is trying to get your body to let it go. If it's bringing up crying, if it's bringing up like whatever, like, and every time you're not doing that, you're shoving it back down and causing another problem for later.
And it literally makes it worse.
For sure.
Then it comes out as like we snap on, like for me, I don't want to snap on my husband or my
Right.
child. And
Right.
I have definitely done it. So
Exactly.
so essentially you start out by taking either of your hands and you want to hold up your hand if you're listening to this like a karate chop, just like a straight here, and you take your other hand and you literally tap on, I don't know what this is technically called, but your karate chop point, essentially like right above
Like
your
the
wrist.
outside of your wrist, that heavy bone spot, kind of.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly, like the underneath your, between your pinky and your
Your
wrist.
wrist. Okay.
Yeah, like that little heavy spot right there.
Yeah.
And then the way you start it is you say, even though
Even though
I, I am so fucking pissed off at the algorithm,
I fucking hate Instagram's algorithm.
period. I deeply
Very
and
good.
deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I completely and deeply love and accept myself.
Yes, and you can make it whatever you want. But
Yeah.
essentially you want to start out with like acknowledging the frustration, the anger, and then saying, even though I'm experiencing this, I do deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I love that. So is that kind of the best motto to follow it with, or are you trying to like change what that negative first one was? Or should you just like say, nope, I love myself? Like,
At first, I start with I love myself.
okay.
And then I will move to the top of my head, which is the next tapping point, and I just say whatever the fuck I'm like. Fuck this
Okay.
shit.
Just
I
let it
hate
out, let it out, let
Instagram.
it out.
Yes. Yeah. And whenever you're doing it, and I always invite my clients like into it, I'm like, just how you just did, like say
Yeah.
it the way you would say it. So I'm gonna say what comes through for me, and I want you to take that sentiment and like say what feels right for you.
I
So then
love
you
it.
just say like, I am so resentful that my post used to be seen by 500 people and now I'm lucky if 10 see it or whatever it is.
Oh, it drives me fucking nuts every time the algorithm feels like it's ruining my business, and not just my business, but like every reason why I love doing what I'm doing, which is the interaction of my community.
And then you move to your eye, like the front of your eyebrow here.
Yeah.
And you say, I'll say, it feels really fucking lonely on my page right now. It feels like no one's listening to me.
It feels now you're gonna make me emotional. It's all trying to come out now. Great.
Yeah, we're letting it
Because
out.
it
We're letting
does
it
feel
out.
really lonely. It feels
It does.
so unseen.
Okay, now you're gonna move to the side of your eye right here.
Okay.
And you're going to say, I spend a lot of time on my content.
I spend a lot of time, love, and energy on my content. Ah,
And I want
oh
people to
shit,
see
this is
it.
working, people.
And I want people to see it.
And I want people to see it. I want it to change their lives. I want them to use the
Yes,
tools. I want them to practice it, because if it does, it will change their life.
exactly. And now you're going to go under your eye. You're going to say, fuck that broadcast channel. No one even was responding.
Yeah, fuck broadcast channels. And fuck you, Instagram, for bringing up new shit all the time. Just keep what was good, good.
Yes, stop trying to be TikTok. It's very frustrating.
Right? Fuck.
We're going to go under our nose, like above our lip. And I'm going to say what I'm irritated with. I want my story views higher again. What the hell?
Right? Oh my God. The 500 people that watched it during COVID and like the 30 people that watch it now.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Okay, right here. I'm getting burned out on social media. I kind of want to just like delete all my pages and say fuck it.
Amen to that. I'm fried. I'm completely fried. And it makes the part that I don't like is it makes me question everything, which is really unfair, because I know I'm an amazing coach and I know that I love this part of the work.
Absolutely.
I want to let go of that being the only way that I can reach my client.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to go to the collarbone next, like right at the top of the collarbone. And we're going to say, I am so devastated that I feel like I'm having a one-way conversation with my audience.
It is devastating to feel like everything I do is one way. Like there's no validation or support or community.
And then you're going to go underneath your armpit right here. And you're going to say something along the lines of whatever feels right for you. I'm just going to say what feels right for me. I hate that I feel like I pour hours into my content and like very few people even respond.
I hate that I feel so passionate about the content that I'm putting out, so excited about the content that I'm putting out, and I feel like literally no one saw it and no one responds or engages. And so then I truly feel like, what is the point of doing any of this? That's how it makes me feel.
Fair. And then now what we would do is we would start back to the top of our head and do the whole thing again. And just what I do when I'm doing it myself is I just say what feels real. And I really get, like, you were doing a really good job of being in that feeling.
Yeah.
And usually by the third or fourth round, the emotions are just kind of not as strong.
No, I can totally see that, because I think I spend so much time trying not to acknowledge that, because I don't want to give it power and I don't want to make it worse. But at the same time, it just builds and builds and builds and builds, right? And so I love that I'm super big on tools. I always want to know what to do in any given moment. And mottos and affirmations obviously help a ton and help to change that story. I love the motto you gave earlier, because that's so like pinpointed on the the thing that kind of drives my frustration. But I love this because it is a thoughtful way to just honor how you feel. And I think half the time, the reason why the feelings are continuously coming up and backing up is just because we refuse to acknowledge them. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're very real. Like, we do, content is such a piece of it. And when your business is also like you as a person, it feels really personal when things in the business aren't working. Yeah. And so I say, like, what I also love affirmations and writing and talking. And I also love like the idea of somatic movement and things like that, but I am not a workout girly. So I'm not going to like go for a run and scream all of my things. Like, tapping is a very simple way for me to release a lot of stuff. Like, I do this on all sorts of things. And I also tap in at the end. So once you're done with that, you'll do a round of like really empowering, like, what do we want to say? you know, and then you do that same, like you just say affirmations, which I know you love. And you,
Yes.
especially if you're a visual person, I know you are the vision board person. I'm the
Yeah.
same way. I will look at like something that makes me feel really freaking good as I'm tapping in.
Ooh, I
Like,
love that.
so
Yeah.
for you, like my invitation after this would be to like about face, look at your
Mhm.
vision boards or your
Yeah.
future
Future boards.
boards
Yeah.
and really tap in the good feelings you want to feel with your
Right.
content, with your audience, and let yourself go there in the confidence of it and just like, yep, all the negative stuff is sure it's there. We're putting it in the back seat, and now in the front seat, we're
Yeah.
going to tap in all the good juicy stuff.
Ooh, I love
And
that.
your body will store that too.
Yep.
And I do this on my son. He's like 15 months old, and I'm like, I am so smart. I'm so kind.
I
Like
love,
I
yes.
can, you
Program
know,
him with all the good stuff.
I literally,
Absolutely.
it's so funny. One of my best friends is like a super spiritual leader. She's amazing. And she's like, Jordan, who's my son, she's like, he's gonna be a Jedi. I'm like, that's the goal. Like, I just want him to be
Absolutely.
himself, you know?
Oh
And
my
I feel
God.
like these tools, like you said, I mean, we get so many tools in our toolbox. And I know for me, I have a very big like trauma around doing it right.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and so for so many years, I had these very strict rules on like what I and my clients would do on social that were like best practice. And I've really burnt those to the ground and custom create that. Like, yes, I have frameworks in my program that work, that are just proven to work, but I always tell them, like, whatever doesn't feel right, come to me and we'll make something else for
Yeah.
you. Because it's about learning how to not look like everybody else.
Right.
You
Right.
know, it's about like everybody in this industry funnels back up to Tony Robbins, right? It's in
Yeah.
some way. This person to this person to this person to
Right.
this
Right.
person, Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Everyone looks the same. Everyone's talking the same. And the more we can invite in of our truest, authentic self, I think that's going to be really the future of social media. Is not the big audiences with the big views. It's
Yeah.
those right aligned people who are in our audience, who see us, love us, and want to be in community with us. And so the more we can invite that in, even if it's just little sips of goodness, whatever our system can handle, because sometimes we do this thing where we're just like, oh, I'm going to go from totally pissed to like super elated. And
Yeah.
that's not going to work. So if you
Right. It's
do
not
notice,
sustainable.
yes, if you do notice something good about your page or somebody responds to something that makes you feel really good, let it in for a little bit, even if it's just a little
Sit
sip.
in it. Yeah. Sit in it.
Sit in it and let it kind of like wash over you for as long as you can. And then if you start to have a negative feeling, just get up and walk away, like move your
Yeah.
body out of it.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
all of that so much because I definitely feel like after you tap the acknowledgement or the release of the negative feelings, that it's always really important to input the positive back in so that what you're left with is how you want to feel moving forward. And also I think that helps you mentally and almost physically, your body release it, like leave it here in this moment, so earlier this week when I had my little knockdown scream fight, whatever you were talking about, I totally had one of those days earlier this week. And I love my best friend. She's so amazing. I think she said one thing like, hey, how's your day? And I was like for like
Yeah.
10 minutes. And then when I was, after we ended our call or whatever, I was like, God, why do I feel so good? Like
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was 100 pounds lighter. I was like, and I just voice memo her and I was like, I know that was annoying for you. Thank you so much, because I just needed it out of my body. I just needed to tell someone or say it, and like, you're amazing. You validated, you did all the things that a best friend, should do. And sometimes you just need that. It just felt like a
Absolutely.
total body cleanse. It was crazy. I was like, oh my God, that
Absolutely.
shit needed to go.
And we need to invite all parts of ourselves as the CEO of our business into our business, because we don't walk into an office and leave home at home. Like, we
Right.
are the business as a coach or an author or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Like, we have to invite all parts of ourselves and not make that wrong and be with that instead of just like reading another self-help book, which I am a self-help junkie, don't get me wrong, but like sometimes it's not, I'm not going to atomic habits my way out of what
Right,
I'm
right.
going through.
What I'm
Sometimes I
feeling.
have to actually sit with it and be with it. Yes, you still take the actions to move forward. Like one thing I've been really working on this year is like inviting in abundance and overflow while I'm in my tantrum. So it's
Yeah,
like, I'm not wrong or bad for being in the tantrum. It's a part of the process for me in a launch. There are certain points where I know I'm going to hit emotions, and it's just because of my trauma, you know?
right, right.
And it's fair. And so I just invite that in now and then also say, like, and universe, I'm also available to receive. I'm still in
Mhm.
alignment, even if I'm having emotions, because I am
Yeah,
a full human being. I am not a robot. And
right.
so there are going to be ups and downs, and all of that can be welcome in your business. And I think those little energetic things oftentimes take us out of the
Mhm.
business and totally sneakily F up all of our
Right.
launches and our content. And it can really run the show instead of us and our higher self, our CEO embodiment, being in the driver's seat, and then also having space for all of the parts of us that need that support.
I love it so much. So tell everybody, I mean, I could do this all day. And I'm definitely going to have you do some hypnosis on me too. I'm
I
going
got you.
to line that up ASAP. But tell everybody what you're working on right now and how they can work with you, connect with you, and get some of these power shifts like you gave me today.
Absolutely. I still love the strategy stuff too. We didn't go into that as much
Yeah.
today, but I feel like there's a lot of that out there, but I have all of that. I love all of that. My name is Jess Angelini, spelled Angel, I-N-I at the end. So you can connect with me on Instagram there, or my podcast I put out every single week is the Online Marketing Alchemist, and we
Love it.
talk about all these things. So like strategy, what's working, what's not working, mindset shifts, ways that you can do this more energetic work. Like it's
Mhm.
all parts of the puzzle. So I love that as a free resource.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, did I submit? I think I submitted a workshop for
Okay.
your Pete. I
Perfect.
think.
Perfect. I'll put that in the show notes. So everybody go follow and grab this amazing workshop. The link will be here in show notes. Go subscribe to both of our podcasts, and we would love to hear what your thoughts were. Hopefully, if you're just listening to this and didn't get a chance to go on YouTube and watch the tapping, go do that, because I think that is an amazing. You just gave us the recipe for how to kind of tap out some of our stuff, and visually, it's probably more helpful to see that. And until next time, everybody, get out there and hustle and thrive. Thanks so much, Jess.
Thank you.